Good morning.
Hello, ladies.
We're so glad that you're here this morning. We're so glad that Dawn has agreed to help us with this topic. Dawn came to us last September. She was one of our speakers, a referral from Andrew Osafo for the ethics of AI. And as the conversation went on in spiritual enrichment, it became clear that we had a lot of questions about cybersecurity, which was her forte from prior to AI ethics. So I asked her to come back and have this conversation, especially since you know that the church has kind of been under attack with this hackers and people sending out scam emails pretending to be Paulo, myself, and other people on staff. Dawn has more than 25 years in cybersecurity, 12 years international, and worked in law, insurance, and reinsurance, and she also is our new member. So we're so excited to have you here. Would you please be with me in a spirit of prayer as we get started? Holy God, we give you thanks for this great morning, for all of these wonderful people gathered here and everyone who will watch later. We give you thanks for Dawn's knowledge and expertise and her willingness to share it with us and her new joining of our church. And we give you thanks for the opportunity to try to safeguard ourselves and our precious loved ones in this chaotic world where there is a lot of dangers abroad that we work to avoid. Thank you for your blessings for this congregation, and thank you for your guidance today. Amen. Amen. So, we're recording.
All right. We have the slides pulled up and ready.
We do. And we're going to go to the
Slideshow.
There. Share. Slides.
Is it possible to dim the lights?
Sure. Sure. And we want this to go away.
And then from the beginning, you got it. It should show.
And then you should be able to just touch this button and it will go forward. Okay?
These arrows, yeah.
Keep it dim.
We can also lower some blinds. Are you getting reflection on the screen, or is it okay to easy
Oh, that's okay.
And that's, hang on, I want to go back to the, there we go.
A little bit. Just cut it. A little bit.
Is it too dark? Oh, glare. I see.
Oh, I didn't mean that. Yeah, that.
It's the light. It's the light. All right, great.
So everybody, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Dawn Kristy. I'm happy to be here. I'm a new member of the church, which I'm very excited about. And I am thankful to Jessica for inviting me back for a second talk. The first one was in September, and that was in quite a different circular setting, and it involved a lot of Q&A, so we discovered that there were a lot more topics that needed to be further explored. And what's happened this year within the congregation and some of the scam text messages, this seemed like the opportune time to do it. I wanted to just tell you a little bit about myself. It's almost 30 years now of working in emerging risk. And that basically started in law, then it went to insurance, then reinsurance, both here in the US and globally. I worked abroad for 12 years. And, you know, the thing that is daunting is that in doing cyber specifically since 2012, the hackers, the malicious actors, the cyber criminals are getting better and better at what they do. And particularly now with AI, it's made them become more sophisticated in what they do. And so we're at a threshold here where we have a wonderful tool, AI, that's used for a lot of good purposes and used in many things that we're not even aware of. Okay. And at the same time, we've got the double-edged sword of the risks that are AI-based cyber attacks at this point. So I wanted to just tell you, I wrote this book during the pandemic. I was in Florida, and 33 Ways Not to Screw Up Cybersecurity is part of a 33 Ways series. I didn't come up with the title. There's 33 Ways Not to Screw Up HR, etc. And the publisher was a friend of mine from DePaul Law School. And one day in South Florida, mid-pandemic, I realized I have time to write, so I decided to write a book, which I have shared with Jessica and Paolo, and it's also at the Chicago Public Library in the Edgewater location where I live, and also in the main library on Van Buren. So if you're interested in either getting the book or checking it out at the library, there's a lot of tips in here. This came out right before ChatGPT, but I do have a chapter on AI in here, which is somewhat relevant. But I just wanted to point that out in case somebody's interested in reading some of the stuff I've worked on. And now what's been happening here is really happening in a lot of places, and a lot of trust and faith communities, and this idea of cyber criminals. And I won't go into the technical aspects today of SIM swapping and taking over a phone, and they are basically duping phone carriers to provide information, and suddenly they've got access to your phone. That's really a highly technical talk, but I think today I feel like rather than being an expert, I'm a messenger. And what I mean by that is I want to just get the message through that you have more control than you realize, and it really is a human factor involved in this. These groups are very savvy at deception. They play on our emotions, they play on our wealth, they play on all sorts of things. And the other thing, not to get too deep in the weeds, but there's a whole cartel of scammers globally, a lot of them far overseas, where young people are actually kidnapped and abducted, and they join these scam camps, and they basically are doing these scams from all over the world. This isn't all US based. So what you realize is it's a cartel, it's an industry, and it's very lucrative. So why would they have an incentive not to do it? They succeed, they make money, they've got these young kids all doing scams everywhere. So that's the backstory. And the main thing I want to get through to you today as a messenger is, you're wiser than you think. And you have a way to really illustrate that by your actions. So I'll start with the slides now, and that is, technology outruns awareness. And what I mean by that is, picture technology moving, and here's the law and awareness trailing. And so we never are caught up. There's always something new and better and different. And if you look at the history of technology, it's always been that way. The calculator comes out, people boo-hooed it, and suddenly people said, well, I'm not going to do math by hand anymore. But initially, they fought the calculator. So that's one point in history where often tech comes out, some early adopters use it, others are skeptical, but suddenly it becomes mainstream. And so that's what's happened with AI tools. People are using it, they're using it for good, and unfortunately there's a whole side that's using it for bad. But the awareness is where we really need to focus, at least within this community right now. Because AI helps and AI deceives. Human judgment really has to be the thread through all of this. Hi. And you can control your response. So AI is helpful and harmful. And so if you picture a hammer, right? A hammer can be used for building in a house, but a hammer can also shatter windows. Do you see the difference? Same tool, used for building or used for breaking. And if you think of AI as a hammer, it can actually be used to help build a house or build whatever you're working on, but it can also smash something terribly. And so we use AI in GPS, Waze, Alexa, all sorts of things in daily life that we're not even digesting that it's AI at this point. But the point is, we need to know how it's used against us. And that has happened here with the impersonation of a pastor or staff or loved ones via text or phone. And, it creates this fake urgent message. It's always And I'll get into this more deeply, but this idea of urgency is designed to frighten. And that's kind of step one. And then the scams often feel very personal, real, and impossible to ignore. And there's an art that they're using to actually do this. There's a whole psychology of human behavior that is getting people to open things that they ordinarily might not. So the human element still matters. Sorry about that. I got into that back in 2022 in my book, and it's still the case. The human factor needs to dominate in these situations. They exploit our trust, and they create urgency. They manufacture panic, as you know, and we've talked about that even before the talk. All of the text messages we're getting about tickets and iPass, etc. It's like a never-ending cascade of text in particular. Good people are often targeted. Your generosity, knowledge of the community, all of that's known. They can dig into the digital history and find out these are the groups that we want to pursue. And then emotion weakens discernment. We are wired to discern. But when emotion takes over, that may get pushed to the side, and that's where the human behavioral side comes in. And then a big factor is speed. This is not where we want to have speed. We want to slow down. We want to really think, and we want to say, could this be real? Why would they even be sending me this? Why would they even ask me this? It's so out of left field. Well, then you're not in a hurry to click, open, respond. So there's common signals of fraud. I'll go through like 6 of those today. One is the sudden urgency or pressure. Act now. You must do this immediately, right? You don't need to speed up. You have the right to think about it. Requests for secrecy. This is a big one. Don't tell your mom that I'm asking you for money. Don't tell anyone. Don't share this at the office that we've contacted you. And then the unusual payments, and we've heard about this, the gift card. The gift cards, another thing that was created for good, for people to give gifts, has now been turned into a cyber crime tool. And that's kind of the irony, right? That isn't why gift cards were originally developed. But the idea is, if you get that sort of message to pay with gift card, hang up. And then there's 3 other signals. There's many, but I wanted to go through 6 today. Messages that create the fear or panic. If your heart starts racing when you read something, that's a sign. Go with your gut, go with your instincts. Do not call. Anyone who says do not call back, they're trying to keep you from getting help. Don't call back that number, or don't call your mom, or don't tell your boss, whatever it is. And then something feels off. This is where, especially as we get older, I think we're wiser, where we say, wait, I've heard about these stories, something's off, I need to really register this. So there's a couple of phrases I'm going to be a messenger about today that I hope stick with you when you leave this room. And that is pause, think, verify. And that is it sounds so simple, but it makes common sense. Before you react to something, pause, take a breath, and again, ask yourself, why am I receiving this? What is driving this? Why do I have to act immediately? I'm on the way to driving my grandchild to soccer. I don't need to quickly click on this link in a text message. I need to do this calmly in another setting. And then the think is this idea of thinking through. And it sounds so basic, but it makes sense. Why would you, in a panic or in a rush, click on something? We're so geared now towards speed, as if somebody is requiring you to reply immediately. And then the verification is the key, and the idea that you can use a trusted source. You can go back to the bank that's supposedly sending you something. You can go back to the family member who's supposedly asking you for something, calling. You don't want to go back to the same number that's come through in the text or call that number. You want to go back to what you have in your address book, what you know to be the real number, what you know to be your Chase bank account login. So that's the verification side. Pause, think, verify. It sounds basic, right? So I'll go through some real life examples, and there may be some interaction if you have some as well, or we could do that at the end. Starting with, of course, the fake pastor or charity text, which we are aware of here, and this idea that people are asking for payment through gift cards or donations through gift cards or asking for directory names, and the idea that, privacy is going to be disclosed to these people. And that is done, again, through a cloned number, what they call SIM swapping. For some reason, a phone number is taken over. And that's perhaps the third part of the talk. If we ever want to do a really big tech talk, that may be part 3. But what I think is interesting is the grandparent scam, where you get a call, Grandma, I'm in trouble, please don't tell Mom. I need $100 because I made this bet, or I did something to a friend and now I have to give them money. And the idea that voice could be faked is a reality, And so I will get into how you counter that, but they can mimic the voice specifically. It's hard to believe, but they can. Okay? And then the fake bank alert, and I'll give you a couple of personal stories on this one. Your bank never asks you to click on a link by text or an email asking you to do it. So this is kind of makes me laugh. I was thinking of it on the way over here. I was at a cybersecurity conference on the topic, and I get a text saying your Chase bank accounts have been locked. Now, I did not click on that link. I waited until the break. Then I called on the back of my debit card, called Chase Bank, got connected to the fraud team, and they said, delete it, that's a scam. Now, if I was in a rush, I'm at the conference, I'll quickly click, why are my accounts locked? But because, especially being at that conference, I was like so attuned to this, don't you dare, click on that link, Dawn. And it ended up being, my accounts were never locked. And if I clicked on that link, they could do 2 things. They could either get access to my phone or maybe even to my accounts, because the malicious code they use to get in can do several things. And that's also quite technical, so that's something. And then the idea that banks have a fraud team, they're there 24/7. So if you get something strange about your bank, let's face it, finances are crucial, especially if you keep all your eggs in one basket, and that one basket, that one account is at risk. Then you have to know, I have it in my phone. I have the Chase fraud number in my phone. Not just the customer service with, somebody overseas that's going to take you 20 minutes to get through. You should have the fraud number of your bank. And if you suspect something, you say, I think something's going on with my account. They will connect you immediately, because banks don't want customers to have these losses. So that's the human behavior side of this, okay? And then the AI-generated voice. So I already mentioned it could be a grandchild's voice, but are there any Ferrari fans in here? Maybe Brian, are you one? Okay. So I love Ferraris, and I often say this. Are you ready? Ferrari for the win. And the reason I say it is because they had a win. We always talk about the negative story, but this was a success story. So 2 men in Italy, one of my favorite countries on the planet, and the CEO of Ferrari is supposedly calling one of his executives. Exact voice, exact accent, everything. But the red flags were, why is he calling me from this odd phone number? Why is he asking for a fast money transfer and telling me not to discuss it, like not transparent? So the guy was savvy enough to say, Lorenzo, what book did I send you last week? Click. And that's the message about code phrases and code books, code words. He knew enough to say, if this is the real guy, he's going to know what book I gave him last week. And if he's a hacker, he hangs up. So that's why I say Ferrari for the win. Because that is a case where somebody was savvy enough to say, I'm not wiring $250,000 just because it's the CEO. Okay? Does anybody have an example they want to share right here, or do you want to do it at the end? Okay, I'll keep going.
Gene and Pete Anderson got scammed by somebody who knows them probably about 10 years ago. And they got one of these calls about, you're traveling, we're in England or Germany, someplace like that.
I see.
And we've been, we don't have any money, we need to just send us some money.
Yeah.
And one of their grandchild did send $2,000.
Yeah. You have one?
I think that I've encountered almost everything you've talked about, although I didn't. I heard about the church, Pastor Paulo and stuff, but more recently, and there are a lot of women in this room that we do things socially or we organize dinners. And I got the best e-bite from Flurry. I don't know if anybody else got an e-bite from Flurry. Says I'm planning a party. Will you come? And normally, when I hear from Flurry, I'll say, yes, I'll bring 5 dozen chocolate cookies, right? Or something like that. And I just looked at that and said, Flurry would never send me an invite. She would call.
Right. Good for you.
And then I just pushed the button to delete the whole thing.
Yeah.
That was probably the closest I ever came to thinking.
Yes.
I got one of those this morning from Sweet Jackson.
Did you?
Okay. So when you get these e-messages, I, for one, delete all e-greeting cards. Sorry to my friends that are doing this. Some of them in South Florida where I lived during the pandemic, I delete them. It's not worth it. I'd rather than text and say, thanks for the card, and let them think I read it, and text it, rather than going through the whole hullabaloo of, is it real, and all of this. So those are the kind of things that can have a malicious code that then enters your system, which then can lead to a ransomware attack where they lock your screen. That's a whole different area than scams. But if you're clicking on something in an email, we'll take a little diversion here, or an e-greeting card, that gives them access to your network. And if that happens, then they can, what they call dwell. They can dwell in there for days or weeks. You don't even know they're in your system. And then lo and behold, all of a sudden, you wake up one day and you have the skull and crossbones on your screen. Everything's locked, and we want money. All from a link that was sent in an email or an e-greeting card.
Well, the other thing that's happened recently, it's been tax time, and many of us have tax providers.
Yes.
Accountants, and they'll send us the final documents by DocuSign.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've done a real estate deal recently or
Yes.
a banking thing, as many of us do in our generation, and I never click on them.
Right.
I call whomever is the
Yes.
accountant and whomever, and I said, did you send me a DocuSign?
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll say yes.
Yeah.
But it's shown to me in the stage of life I'm at, it's compelling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because I want to make sure I'm up to date with the bank, or I've signed whatever I'm supposed to sign.
Exactly.
And I've never done it.
Yeah.
Only because of what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was tempted a couple of times because I was awaiting something from the insurance company, for example.
Yeah, and then there's this, and I can totally relate to that. So I did use an accountant for a while that used Thomson Reuters Authenticator. Are you familiar with Authenticator apps on your phone? Okay, so an Authenticator app is another way. Let me do that when we get to the 2FA section. Are there any other scenarios that people want to, okay.
I had one recently, which I'm still trying to figure out, but it was, I use Zelle with my bank.
Yeah.
And somebody deposited money in my account. So I suddenly had $450 deposited, and I'm like, I do not know where this came from. I asked all my kids, I asked my husband, and I finally went to the bank, and I said, I don't know who this is. And meanwhile, this person, somebody texted me and called me to say, oh, I made a mistake. And they left me a voicemail. And I just refused to touch it, and I went to the bank, and they went to their thing, and they said, that's fraud. And I was trying to, well, how can it be fraud when they give me money? But somebody else told me what they think it is that money's not actually there. They're waiting for you to quickly to send it back and then they cancel the transaction.
Yes.
So you've gone back and said, oh, yes, here, let me give you back your $450.
Right, exactly.
They canceled the transaction, and so that money was never in there.
Because there's a timing issue with Zelle.
Yeah.
And so, like Discover, if you have like a Discover digital account, which I have for my bank royalties, I only book royalties, I only use it for that. So they take several days to take in or send Zelle.
Yeah.
Chase and some of the big banks take them right away, but you have to be signed up through Zelle and go through the security, and whenever you do Zelle, I pay my rent with Zelle to my, I basically have to go through this whole litany of, here's the security things, are you aware?
Yeah.
And then you go through that, and then you do your sending. But there is a time lag.
Yeah.
So there is fraud. Venmo is the other one that goes through the same issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I had done it in that time frame.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Well, you said the thing about e-bite, and I was just gonna ask you that question, because I got an e-bite a few weeks ago from a name I didn't remember.
Yeah.
And I searched the email and then found that he was in my email, like, contact list from previous life, but I don't know him off the top of my head. Is there a way to tell because I had clicked on it and nothing happened, and then I went, oh God, was that and in the message it says, there's security details, it says mailed by Gmail, signed by Gmail, security standard encryption. Is there any of that stuff that you can trust? Or is all e-bites just bad news? No,
I'm not, I'm risk wired. So I have no risk tolerance, so I don't do, it doesn't mean that you can't. And one way around it would be to text, if it's somebody you know well, if it's somebody from 20 years ago, I would delete it.
Well, yeah, but if I already clicked on it, so now I'm nervous that, like, if I do any banking on my phone, are they tracing my passwords through the phone, that kind of thing?
Well, if nothing has happened yet, unlikely.
Probably not. Okay.
But just be vigilant now that this has happened. And the $10,000 question, the $10,000 answer is update your password on your bank account if you're concerned, always. I mean, the finances are gold, right? So if you have any qualms about something about to happen, at least change your bank password and maybe even your email password. As tedious as it is, okay, now I'm going to go on another diversion. During the pandemic, I spoke to a group of seniors twice at FIU, Florida International University, and it was on cybersecurity, and I was in the midst of writing this. And the funny thing was, I used the example and it hit home. Remember how, and I think pretty much everybody here remembers white pages and yellow pages and even slimline phones. We are so spoiled now with these. Everything is fast at our beck and call. And so remember that we are in a digital age that focuses on speed, but that doesn't mean your diligence should be fast, your decision, your discernment. You have to use your own judgment. This isn't where, slow days of the white pages and then you dial. I mean, people are getting access to everything very quickly. So are there any other things on scenarios, or we can go to those again at the end? Let's move on a bit. So protecting your personal information, you may have heard PII, personal identifiable information, but the key is, and now I'll get to the passwords, is strong passwords. At this talk in Florida, one of the women asked me, can I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Which is the #1 password globally. And can anyone guess what the second one is? Brian, you probably know. Okay, the second most used password is password. Right. So when you've got these things churning through the system, and now I'll give a Yahoo example. I had a Yahoo email for years before Gmail was popular. Many people have AOL, some people have Yahoo, MSN, whatever. You may have an old account with an old password or old login credentials. Now Yahoo, when I worked at Aon, they had 2 huge breaches. Every account was breached in Yahoo. So rather than updating, I just closed it and I moved over to Gmail. But if you still have a Yahoo account, you have to make sure that you've updated your password recently, because all of those old ones were in a massive set of data breaches. And the automation that these cyber criminals use, they just use these tools that just plug in every possible password. Bing, there it is, we're in. So if you've got an older, like if you're still using AOL, I do have a friend that uses it, no offense to anyone here, but I keep saying to him, why don't you switch to Gmail at this point, you know? But there is this knee-jerk reaction that we don't want to update our tech. And then I say, well, go back to the white pages. There was a lot more work to do back then, so please.
Sorry to interrupt, but I read somewhere that if you have an AOL account, you're going to be a primary victim or target of all the old people scams.
Yeah.
Because nobody has an AOL except for people in their
Yes.
And it makes us very, very vulnerable.
Yes, and even now, as I say, Yahoo to some extent and MSN, these were all like the originals. And so, and it doesn't mean you have to have Gmail. There are other options. And some people use Outlook because they use that through Microsoft, through their work or what have you. But yeah, these people are savvy. And they can break things down by age groups, by wealth groups, by community groups, you know. So then we get into two-factor authentication, which is also called MFA, multi-factor authentication. And normally what you do is if somebody offers it, you sign up for it, and then when you go to log into your account, they'll send you a text message with a code that you then put into login, or you can get it by email, or you can get it with an authenticator. So an authenticator, like I have a Microsoft one, when I open it, I have to put in my phone code. I have Microsoft, Gmail, Calendly, Kroll, because I signed up after the Blue Cross Blue Shield database breach. I signed up for the Kroll monitoring for my credit accounts, Stripe, which is a payment thing, and Dawn Kristy, which is the tax service that I used. So I have 5 things in here that I can use the Microsoft Authenticator for, which means when I'm signing up, it says, do you want to use SMS or an authenticator? You'll see that more and more now. What that means is I go into my authenticator, and there's a code that whines every so many seconds. I know I'm losing some of you, but stay with me here. That code then you put into the system, and that logs you in. So that avoids getting the text with the code. You use it with this. We can talk about that after if that's too much. Now, what about links and what about QR codes? This is another Dawn thing. I never ever I never use a QR code. Same thing as the e-greeting cards. You don't know who created, it could be on the TV screen while you're watching American Idol or something, and suddenly someone's selling something with the QR code on TV. Are you going to hold your camera up to that? You don't even know where that code was generated. It may not even be in the US. So if you think, oh, I want to learn about this promo, go to their website and log in. So QR codes to me are just like e-greetings. You don't know who is behind them. Any questions on that? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why do commercial outfits even use them? Because to me, I find it very annoying, and I don't ever, it's like they're saying, go here for information, and
yeah,
is that not going to be a country?
It's part of the digital world. Everything's speed, yeah? For those that don't want to have to go log in, here's a QR code so you can sit on your sofa with your popcorn and just use that. Now, password managers. And I think at the first talk, you might have asked me about that in September. Were you the one that asked me about the Google Password Manager?
I was out of town.
Oh, all right. Well, I don't know if that person's here. So Google, if you go into Google Password Manager online, you can actually go in and set that up for your Google if you use Gmail. I have Google Workspace that I set up with my business email. And what you can do is you can save your passwords in there. It'll list them. Obviously, you have to log in to save them, to see them. But you can save those in there without having to get a LastPass or one of these external ones, because the risk for people that get the password managers, especially if you're in your 60s like me, you may space out one day and realize, I don't know what my master password is to get into the darn thing. How do I actually get into this vault that has all my passwords? Well, you have to have that master password saved somewhere, right? Be it in a desk drawer. You don't want it in a Post-it in your wallet or your handbag.
I have a friend who wrote it inside a shoe. I got it. Inside a shoe.
Yeah. So I have found through the talks I've done that older folks like myself, we're not using the pay for password managers, LastPass, whatever they are, but people are using the Google, and that's what I use. And that's your own risk tolerance. If you want to create a password manager system, pay for one and have a master code, that's your choice. So leadership begins at home, right? Home is where the heart is. You have to protect yourself and your family first, right? So I see this as protection as care. Sharing what you learn is one of the most loving things you can do for your family. So when you leave today, you may talk to someone in your family and say, I have a few things I want to talk to you about. Let's have coffee. Establish a family code. Ferrari for the win, yeah? You could do red. You could do, John is now at Michigan State University, or the dog goes to Dr. Smith to the vet, or you could do a phrase that only the family would know, some phrase or code, yeah? Like, it could be, are you changing dorms this year? It could just be a statement, but when you get a call from them, which is supposed to be their voice, you say, what is our code? And if they say red and that's your code, you know it's them. Now, one word might be guessed like red, because code red, that's probably not the best example. But you might say daisies, or you might say roses, or whatever the one word is that's meaningful to your family.
Our family uses spaghetti.
Well, you shouldn't be saying that out loud. Okay, let me put that in my note. You better change it to pasta now. Okay, pasta. Okay. And then,
Something like, how's your roommate?
yes, it could be a phrase, or I need to get my tires filled. It could just be, but it has to be something that you and your spouse or your kids, something that you'll all remember. Like, my turtle Blinky died. I used to use Blinky for years, my first turtle. I don't anymore because I know I used Blinky for so long that's in this huge database somewhere. So that's the other thing you have to think about. If you've used a code word for 30 years, you probably want to change that too. Sorry, Blinky. Now, generations help each other, and this is a big one. So, younger people are savvy to the scams, but older people are savvy to the manipulation. So if you combine the two, you've got the tech knowledge and the manipulation knowledge, and that's the nice, what's the word, union of knowledge within a household. Does that make sense? Okay. Security is a community practice. Oh boy, does this apply here, right? It's like, picture it as a cascade waterfall, right? One person pauses, yay. One person verifies, yay. One person warns the group, terrific. Now the entire community knows. But it started with one person who said, this is really funky. I don't like what I'm getting here. I better find out why I got this text asking for gift cards, right? Then the next person says, well, I actually verified and it's fake. Uh-oh, we better tell the office. Then the office sends out the alert. So this is the easiest phrase of the whole talk. If in doubt, don't. Right? If you're driving on a trip, which you may be doing this weekend, and you get a text from iPass, which I keep getting, and I don't even own a car right now, do not pull over and answer the text from iPass. Yeah. Okay? If in doubt, don't. You do not owe anyone an immediate response. Now, if it is a child in dire straits and you think, I still don't like the language of this text or whatever, you can still pull over and call them back or text them back in your contacts and text back, but you don't necessarily have to reply to that text. You see the difference? And now that you know that this sort of voice manipulation and phone takeovers happen, if they're saying, I've been kidnapped, God forbid, you want to pull over and address it. And first of all, when you call, what's the code word? And then remember, they're saying, don't call us back. We don't want you to call us back because we're fake. We're here in some scam center and God knows where. So are there questions on that? If in doubt, don't. I think that's really, okay. Who do you call when something feels wrong? Well, we've gone through the bank, right? You have your card you got the phone number on the back of the card like I did at that conference. Called the fraud department. They said, oh, it's fake, delete it. If you are a victim, you can report to the FTC. They keep records. You don't have to do that. But if you get the slides later, the phone number's there. And the FTC is just monitoring. You know, they do the stats on the breaches every year in the US. But what's important is the trusted family member or church member, where you say, I'm getting this, I keep getting it, something is wrong, I don't want to feel ashamed, but I need help. And this one I think is so appropriate because when you think about lawyers, doctors, judges, pastors, executives, all get, and the word they use is duped. And it does not mean that you're foolish, you're human. These people are in a business, they're very savvy, they know what they're doing, and you're just one individual human. But you still have this, you still have your human judgment. So don't feel foolish if you've fallen victim. The thing is, share it, do not be silent so others learn from it, right? And report to your community so they're aware. It has happened to you or someone that you love, you're not alone and you're not foolish. And that's an important thing to remember. You haven't done something wrong, you're a victim. So what can you do this week? Here's a little homework. So call someone you love, agree on a family code or phrase, name the red flags. If you're sitting around watching Netflix with popcorn Friday night, what are the signals? Urgency, secrecy, gift cards. Say it like a mantra. Urgency, secrecy, gift cards, right? And then change one password. If you do have an email that needs to be updated with the password, do it. If you have all your eggs in one bank account, you better make sure that that is a tight password. And even if you have 3 bank accounts, make sure all those passwords are up to date. That's your homework. And the other thing I have to say, which I didn't even think of until now, I used to write on this for years when I was at Aon. The long holiday weekend is the #1 attack time. People shop online, they're in a rush, they're not at home, and that's when hackers are like, they're salivating. They're like, Memorial Day weekend, we are so all over this. So this is when you really have to be vigilant. So what you've learned today, you can say, okay, and it's not that you have to be paranoid. I'm talking about diligence, not paranoia. So one clear light in a sea of risk, I hope that's me. I'm a lighthouse fan, and I feel like you need that light beam to steer your ship to safety because this is doable. It's just that you need awareness and you need to be thoughtful. So you already have what it takes, I believe that. So you need wisdom, patience, and community. And community can be your family as well. So before we go into Q&A, I wrote a little closing prayer. You don't have to read it with me. I'm not a pastor. I did not name scripture, but I'll read it now. Lord, grant us wisdom to discern what is true, courage to pause before we act in fear, and the grace to protect one another as you have called us to do. May we be good stewards of our families, our neighbors, and the gifts we have been given. Amen. That's it. That's all, folks.
Questions?
Questions? Absolutely. Q&A, I'm totally into it.
So when we were talking earlier, many of us getting these invitations from somebody that we know.
Yeah.
Does that mean that that person at Flurry has something happened? I mean, so they're using her.
Yes, they could be using her email, and that's called spear phishing. They can actually get into your system and send emails as if it's from you. I actually fell victim to this with Yahoo. And this is not a great topic, but all of a sudden I realized I'm getting these responses from people I hadn't talked to from years. And you're not even going to believe it was somebody touting Viagra. Of all things. And they're like, Dawn, why are you sending me? And I'm like, sending you what? That's when I switched to Gmail. I was like, I'm not even dealing with Yahoo. So I closed my account. I never knew how many people got that email thinking I was now selling pills. But that's what happens. There is a takeover of your system, be it email, phone, what have you.
So I have a question, what should Flurry do or Sue Jackson? Should they do something about, I mean,
Should I tell Flurry? I didn't even tell her.
Yes, I would,
Change your password.
yeah, change your, because what they have is they have her login details. Do you know what email she uses?
I don't.
Yeah,
Oh, actually, I know what she is.
it's probably Yahoo. The thing is, she has to go into her security of her email and update her login, and that's username, password, MFA, where she's going to get a ping.
So how can someone with some resources like us, and can we just pay somebody to do that for us? I mean, I know that sounds very elitist, but is there someone who can just do it? I got it. You have a guy? Okay.
Yeah.
You have guys?
I help people, but that isn't my point today. I'm here as a messenger, so.
Speaking of, referring to what Lori was saying, my mom and stepfather had some kind of something that generated passwords all the time.
Yes.
She's been asking what's the name of it.
It's an authenticator, probably.
But he passed away, and she doesn't know how to
Okay.
operate it. And so now she's like, I don't know, my password, I don't know how to deal with this system,
Yeah.
which I can't remember the name of it. And I
The-
feel like that can be just as complicated, and is there a way to simplify?
Yeah, well, then you're looking into archives of that system. So you have to be able to log in. They have a security team, whatever that was, to say the owner of this has passed away. I need help to reset this and or close it. You know, all of these things have solutions. I actually help people in my building. I live in a high-rise in Edgewater, and I've had a couple of sessions where we actually opened up emails and phones and actually did the hands-on part. You can have somebody help you to answer your question if you don't have time or interest. But the first step to take away today is right here. This is your main tool, your judgment.
So I just checked Flurry is AOL.
Ah, ha, ha, ha. That says it all, yeah. Time to go to Gmail.
Yes, and you know, most of us have grown children that can do that for us.
Absolutely.
On that point, Dawn, how can we let everybody know that we've gone to Gmail?
Because you have their contact information, and even if you have to do it one by one, think of the white pages, it's still faster. If you have 20 people in your circle that matter, then you have to let them know, I'm changing my email. Don't say what or where, but you're going to be getting a new email from me. I just changed my Dawn at Dawn Kristy. I used to have Dawn at the Cyber Dawn. I've now stopped Cyber Dawn completely. And I sent to people saying, now you have Dawn at Dawn Kristy for my business email. You just notify people.
And-
Yeah.
And so there's some tension in my household in the future.
Uh-oh, I do not do counseling.
No, it doesn't happen often, but I refuse to do online banking.
Yeah,
I just don't do it. I don't have passwords for banking.
yeah,
I have a personal banker and,
Yeah.
you know, we bank at different ones, right? We have more than one bank. And I feel like such a dinosaur, and not just my husband, but that others can't believe that I'm not.
you know what, but it's like a risk tolerance level. You have the risk wiring that you have. That's what it is. You have to operate the way it feels right for you. You don't have to be a lemming. You don't need FOMO. You do what works for you. If everybody else is jumping off the cliff, you don't need to follow, so.
And my risk tolerance is pretty high, but not for banking. I mean, it just seems like a totally worthless risk. You know,
Yeah.
why would you even?
Brian, you want to counter that in this courtroom?
Limit the amount of money I keep in a certain bank.
Exactly, and that's the other thing, all eggs in one basket, not if it's substantial, you know, so. And you may have things like Fidelity, and then you may have Chase, and you may have Discover for book royalties. I mean, you can spread things around. Yes, please.
The only thing about the online banking is that people in Winnetka have had checks that were stolen.
Yes.
From the Winnetka post office.
Yeah.
And large checks, and they wash the check.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
they put in their name. So checks really may be more vulnerable to.
Yeah, and checks,
I've
yeah,
heard
that, I've heard people say, do not pay anything but
Right.
check.
I don't.
Yeah.
Especially in the mail.
yeah, and checks are down to probably about 5% of usage now.
Yeah.
And the pennies are gone entirely, by the way.
So that's one thing about this.
Yeah.
What I'm often able to do, because our banks are small and use their service, like Wintrust, and
Yes,
I just call my banker and authorize it.
yes, yeah.
And it's like the IRS is moving to not.
Yeah, they have, and there's also this, I signed up this year for ID.me.
Yes.
And that, I mean, that it applies to your taxes, your social, your Medicare, whatever you're on.
What is that?
It's a new security system they've set up to log in
For federal government?
for federal agencies, ID.me.
Right, and actually the sign up, I'm a CPA and I have clients come in and we sit and do it
Yes,
together.
yeah.
Because it's a lot of double authenticating.
Yes. It's almost like an authenticator app, but it's run by them. And, you know, and somebody cynical might say, well, that could get breached. Well, let's face it, anything can get breached. But it's a question of, are these entities having really strong security for login and for the double check? And if you have a double check offer and you don't use it, well, then that means you have a high risk tolerance. If they say you can do multi-factor and you say, no, I don't want it, well, you're back to the white pages era.
Oh, because and I said to clients signing up for IDMe, it feels invasive, because you have to provide picture ID.
Yes,
and, all
yes.
that stuff. So, but I said, but
Yeah.
it's for your safety.
Even LinkedIn, I had to upload my driver's license and all to verify because I'm on it regularly. And there's a lot of fraud on LinkedIn now with fake accounts. So if you can look at somebody's profile and see a check verified, that means like ID me, you went through the process. Now, my cynical mind would say, God, I hope they're secure. But there comes a time when you finally have to say, I trust.
What happens if you click on a profile in LinkedIn? Is
Yeah.
that like clicking on, or is that within the?
Oh, no, that's in their platform. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, because there's a lot of fake accounts now, you just have to be cautious. So if you get a DM that somebody wants to connect and their account isn't verified, and this is getting into the weeds, but if you have no connections, mutual connections, they've got like 40 followers, nothing verified, and they want to connect, delete. You know, you have to do your background work. Are they connected to any of my connections? Are they verified? Why do they only have 40 followers? Right there for me, LinkedIn's been out 15 years. If somebody has 40 followers, they're either a new graduate or it's suspect. So, yes.
What about Face ID?
Mhm.
So
Yep.
recognition. I mean, that really would be the ultimate
Yes.
check, isn't it?
Yes, and again, I use it for my bank account on my app,
Yeah.
but not everybody wants to. And again, that goes back to, what are you as a person and as a family willing to do?
What's the risk?
Yeah, what's there? Well, Face, they're using your iris, and until those get breached, which I don't know if they. Yeah, you only have two, right? So.
And they're just belong to you.
Yes. So.
And they're unique.
Oh, our irises are unique.
Update
Every.
after cataract surgery?
Now you asked me a question I can't answer. I will actually look at that. But are they replacing the iris? It's just the cover.
No, but then, yeah, but that's
Yeah.
changing.
I don't know. That's a great question. So now you're into really an age category, the post-cataracts vulnerability group. Yes.
Well, just one comment about that, but this is the cataract generation.
Exactly.
And this is the generation that the scammers like. But what I was gonna mention, back to checks,
Yes.
I heard at an event here that if you use a gel pen, that can't be washed.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that true?
That's true.
Okay.
Well, you want to use the ballpoint pen.
But I also read something where like if you use the scanner, so Chase, you can put a check front, back, scan it. You don't need to go to the bank. Well, now they're trying to find ways that they can actually get into that and then have the check, have the info and use it. Keep in mind, this is a lucrative industry. People are like, how can we make money? What can we attack next? The awareness lags behind the tech.
They are so sophisticated. It's scary.
And it doesn't cost anything to do it. I mean, they can just,
Right.
Could get caught.
Yes.
they'll send an email, it doesn't cost anything.
I didn't hear.
I'm a rare bird who no longer uses my laptop. I use only the telephone, and I only use one bank and have for years, and I pay in checks or in Visa or MasterCard,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so far, from what you've described, I haven't had problems.
Right.
But the telephone is one of those 2 to 4 times a day for years. I listen to 2 rings, and I don't go to the phone because the third one, 9 times out of 10 will be unavailable. Have you heard that one?
Is that on a landline? Like a home phone? Oh, I see, yeah.
And it's gone on for 6 or 7 or 8 years. I've lost count. Last year at Covenant Living, where I'm at, there was a man coming in to describe all
Yeah.
the kind of horrible things. Of course, it's a year out of date by now.
Yes.
And I raised my hand and mentioned this unavailable. Oh yeah, I get one of those, he said.
Oh,
So apparently it's fairly common.
yeah, yeah.
And I just, of course, don't answer it.
So in closing, I wanted to say my book is at the Chicago Public Library. I know we're not in Chicago proper, but
Is it the Winnetka Library?
Edgewater and Harold Washington. I don't know, is Winnetka in CPL? No.
Oh, no, you have to.
Northbrook?
No, only CPL. But what I wanted to say was there's a chapter in here on strong passwords, multi-factor authentication. All these things we've talked about are in here. And you can get it at the library. You can always get a CPL card and order it and pick it up at a CPL if you're downtown. The Edgewater one is lovely. I do a lot of things at that library. Now I'm pitching Edgewater.
Winnetka Library will get anything you ask.
Dawn, is it still available to purchase?
Yeah, on Amazon. You just put in my name and it's there. There's an ebook and then there's the hard copy. And they're very reasonably priced. So
That's the thing.
notice my prior hair color. That was my Florida look. So should we wrap up the recording?
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We have a fabulous lunch prepared for us by the Karen Calling team, as
Nice.
usual.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. So quiche, salad, fruit salad, pasta salad, brownies, lemonade, ginger ale, coffee, and tea. Please help yourselves.